Isabella's boot caught on the warped floorboard, sending her crashing forward into the dust-choked heart of Hawthorne Manor, where the air tasted like forgotten promises and the walls whispered secrets she'd never asked to hear. In that split second, as her palms slapped against the cold oak, a hidden compartment yawned open beneath her, spilling forth a cascade of yellowed letters bound in faded ribbon, each one etched with a name that mirrored her own, Isabella Rose Hawthorne. But from a century ago. A woman whose existence had been scrubbed from family lore like a stain too shameful to bear. Darling, if they find this, burn it all, the topmost note pleaded in looping script, signed with a flourish that trembled like a lover's final breath. And in that moment, Isabella knew the estate her grandmother had willed her wasn't just crumbling. It was a tomb for truths that could shatter everything she thought she knew about love, legacy, and the women who came before her. The drive from Burlington had been a blur of autumn leaves slashing across the windshield like accusations, Vermont's green mountains rising in jagged silhouette against a sky bruised with impending rain. Isabella gripped the steering wheel of her old Subaru tighter, her knuckles whitening as the GPS chimed its final warning. You have arrived. Hawthorne Manor loomed at the end of a gravel drive overgrown with thistle and regret, its Victorian spires piercing the clouds like forgotten prayers. She hadn't been back since she was 12, when her parents' divorce had scattered the family like ash, and grandmother Eleanor had retreated into this place, turning it into a fortress of silence. Now, 32. With her architecture firm in Chicago on the brink of collapse after a string of bad contracts, the inheritance letter had arrived like a lifeline or a noose. Restore it, Eleanor's will had commanded, and in doing so, find what was lost. Isabella had laughed then, bitter and hollow, assuming it meant the structural integrity of the place. But as she stepped out into the chill, the wind carrying the faint rot of damp wood and wild roses, she felt the weight of something deeper settling over her shoulders. The realtor, a wiry man named Harlan with a mustache that twitched like it held its own secrets, handed her the keys with a perfunctory nod. Folks say it's haunted. You know. Not by ghosts. Mind by the women who built it. He chuckled. But his eyes darted away, toward the overgrown gardens where statues of stern-faced ancestors stared sightlessly from beneath ivy shrouds. Isabella forced a smile, the kind she perfected in boardrooms full of men who dismissed her sketches as too emotional. Just needs a woman's touch, she replied, echoing the phrase her mother had used to justify leaving her father for a life in Austin nobody talked about. Harlan drove off in a cloud of dust, leaving her alone with the manor and the echo of her own footsteps on the porch. Inside, the foyer was a cathedral of decay, chandeliers draped in cobwebs like mourning veils, wallpaper peeling in curls that revealed layers of paint like sedimentary rock, each hue a testament to lives layered upon one another. Isabella dropped her duffel bag, the thud reverberating through the emptiness, and pulled out her notebook, leather-bound, edges frayed from years of late-night revisions. She was here to assess, to plan the restoration that might salvage her career and, if she was honest, her fraying sense of purpose. But as she paced the grand hall, flashlight beam cutting through the gloom, her mind wandered to the woman she'd left behind in Chicago, Mia, with her sharp wit and sharper departures, who had packed her things one rainy afternoon with a casual, "I need space to breathe. Izzy, this intensity of yours, it's suffocating." The words still stung, a fresh bruise on Isabella's heart, reminding her that love, in her hands, always seemed to build toward collapse. She started in the library, the room her grandmother had cherished most. its shelves sagging under volumes of leather-bound histories and dog-eared romances that Eleanor had devoured in secret. Dust motes danced in the slivers of light piercing the storm shutters, and Isabella sneezed, waving her hand through the haze. That's when she noticed the floorboard, slightly askew, as if pried up and replaced in haste. Kneeling, she wedged her multi-tool beneath it, the wood groaning in protest before giving way. The compartment beneath was shallow, barely deep enough for a Bible, but it cradled a treasure trove, not gold or jewels, but paper letters, photographs, a tarnished locket engraved with intertwined initials, Heiress, and EMW. Her hands trembled as she lifted the first letter, the paper brittle as autumn leaves. "My dearest Bella," it began. The ink faded but fervent. "The world outside these walls would call us sinners, but in your arms, I have found my salvation. Do not let them take this from us. Signed, your eternal, Eliza." Isabella's breath caught, her pulse thundering in her ears. Eliza, the name tugged at a half-remembered story from childhood, whispered by aunts over tea. Great-great-aunt Eliza, the spinster who had wasted her life, tending the estate after some scandalous elopement that never happened. But this was no spinster's lament. This was a love letter, raw and unapologetic, penned in the shadow of a society that would have buried it deeper than any grave. She sank back on her heels, the letters fanning out around her like fallen soldiers. Photographs followed, sepia-toned images of two women in high-necked gowns, arms linked defiantly on the manor's veranda, their gazes locked with an intensity that transcended time. One was unmistakably a hawthorn, high forehead, those same green eyes staring out from Isabella's own reflection each morning. The other, Flimmer, with dark curls escaping a severe bun and a smile that promised mischief, must be Eliza. No, the letter was from Eliza to Bella. Isabella Rose Hawthorne, the original, who had inherited the estate in 1892, only to vanish from records after a fire that claimed half the East Wing. The family lore spoke of tragedy, of a loveless marriage forced upon her. But these images told a different story. Stolen glances in moonlit gardens, hands brushing under parlor tables, a bond forged in secrecy that the world deemed unnatural. Tears pricked Isabella's eyes, unbidden and hot, as she traced the faces. How many times had her own relationships crumbled under the weight of unspoken fears? Mia had accused her of building walls higher than any blueprint she drew, of loving too fiercely, too possessively. "You're like this house. Is he beautiful? But full of rot you won't face." Perhaps Mia was right. But here, in the dust of her ancestors, Isabella felt a pull, a thread connecting her to this Bella of old. A woman who had dared to love another woman in an era when such affection was a crime whispered in shadows. The rain began then, a sudden deluge rattling the windows like impatient fingers. Isabella gathered the letters carefully, tucking them into her notebook, her mind racing. She needed to understand not just for the restoration, but for herself. Who were these women? What lies had the family built this estate upon? Brick by concealed brick? And why? In the quiet of this forsaken place, did their story feel like the key to unlocking her own locked heart? As night fell, she lit a fire in the grate, the only room with a functional chimney, and pored over the documents by flickering light. The letters span years, from tentative confessions in 1890 to desperate pleas in 1901, when Eliza wrote of the child we cannot claim, hidden away in Boston to spare the Hawthorne name. A child? Isabella's stomach twisted. Was there a lineage buried here? A bloodline erased to preserve the facade of propriety? The final letter, dated just before the fire, was a single page, ink smeared as if by tears. If I cannot have you in this life, wait for me in the next. Burn this if they come. But no, I would burn the world to hold you once more. Isabella closed her eyes, the words echoing in her chest like a heartbeat not her own. Outside, thunder rolled over the hills, and for the first time in months, she felt not alone, but accompanied by ghosts who had loved as fiercely as she longed to, and lost as bitterly as she feared she might again. Dawn broke gray and sodden over Hawthorne Manor, the kind of Vermont morning that clung to your skin like regret. Isabella woke on the library floor, neck stiff from the makeshift pillow of her jacket. The letters scattered like confetti from a party long crashed. Her phone buzzed insistently from her bag, missed calls from her assistant in Chicago, voicemails piling up about the firm's looming deadline for the museum bid. Izzy, we need your head in the game, one pleaded. But her head was here, tangled in the past, the scent of old paper mingling with the earthy petrichor seeping through the cracks. She rose, stretching kinks from her limbs, and wandered to the kitchen, a cavernous space with a cast-iron stove that hadn't seen flame since the Nixon administration. Cupboards yielded tins of tea gone stale and jars of preserves crystallized into amber fossils. Nothing edible, but enough for black coffee, bitter as her mood. Sipping it from a chipped mug etched with hawthorn roses, she stared out at the side yard, where a stone fountain lay choked with leaves, its cherub face eroded to anonymity. That's when she saw her, a woman in the mist, knee-deep in the undergrowth, clipping vines with shears that flashed like silver warnings. The stranger straightened, wiping her brow with the back of a gloved hand, and Isabella's breath hitched. Mid-30s, perhaps, with sun-kissed olive skin and hair cropped short in a practical pixie cut the color of rich espresso, streaked with premature silver that caught the light like threads of moonlight. She wore faded overalls over a thermal shirt, boots caked in mud, and carried herself with the easy grace of someone who belonged to the land, not just borrowed it. Their eyes met across the yard, hers a deep hazel, sharp and assessing, like she could read the rot in a tree from 50 paces. You must be the new owner, the woman called, her voice carrying clear over the drip of rain from the eaves. No question in it, just statement, laced with a drawl that hinted at southern roots transplanted north, Louisiana, maybe, or Georgia, softened by years in Yankee soil. She approached the porch with unhurried steps, extending a hand callous from honest work. I'm Lena Voss. Groundskeeper or was, till your gran passed. Said you'd be coming to fix this old girl up. Isabella shook her hand, the grip firm and warm, grounding her in the present even as her mind spun with last night's revelations. Isabella Hawthorne. And it's Isabella, not Izzy. To strangers, the words came out sharper than intended, a reflex from too many boardroom battles. Lena's lips quirked. Not quite a smile, but close enough to crinkle the corners of her eyes. Fair enough. Those secrets have a way of unraveling around here, don't they? Lena nodded toward the manor, her gaze lingering on the sagging eaves as if they held stories of their own. Heard you rummaging last night. Walls are thin. You find anything interesting in the library? Isabella's pulse quickened, heat rising to her cheeks. Had the wind carried her sobs? Or was it just small-town intuition? The kind that thrived on whispers, just assessing damage. Floorboards need work. She busied herself relocking the door. But Lena lingered, pulling a thermos from her truck bed, a battered Ford with rust kissing its fenders like an old lover. Coffee's hot. Real stuff. Not that instant rot. Figured you'd need it after the drive. Lena poured into a spare mug, steam curling like question marks. Isabella accepted, the bitterness yielding to notes of chicory that tugged at memories of her mother's kitchen in Austin. Mornings filled with jazz on the radio and the scent of beignet before everything fractured. They sat on the porch steps, the silence companionable at first, broken only by the patter of residual rain. Lena spoke of the garden's history, how Eleanor had planted the wild roses herself, thorns and all, as a reminder that beauty bites back. Isabella listened, the letters burning a hole in her bag, wondering if Lena knew more than she let on. "You from around here?" Isabella asked finally, needing to fill the space between them. "Born in Baton Rouge. But life's a wandering road. Landed here 10 years back." After, Lena trailed off, her eyes distant, tracing the horizon where mountains met mist. After a bad breakup. Needed roots that didn't tangle. Your gran gave me that. Tough as nails. She was, but kind underneath. Said the manor chooses its keepers. Isabella nodded, the coffee warming her from within, thawing something she'd iced over since Mia. "I'm an architect. Specialize in historical restorations. This place, it's a puzzle. Layers upon layers." She hesitated, then added, "Softer. And maybe some ghosts I'd rather not disturb." Lena's laugh was low, like thunder rumbling far off. "Ghosts are just echoes, Isabella. Face 'em straight, and they lose their bite." She stood, brushing dirt from her knees. "I'll clear the east path today. Holler if you need muscle for the heavy lifting." As she walked away, tools clinking, Isabella watched the sway of her shoulders, the unapologetic strength in her stride. It stirred something unfamiliar, not the frantic spark of her past flings, but a quiet curiosity, like the first crack in a frozen lake. Back inside, fortified by caffeine and conversation, Isabella unrolled blueprints on the dining table, a massive slab of walnut scarred by generations of knives and elbows. The plans were Eleanor's, yellowed and annotated in her precise hand. "Preserve the heart, even if it bleeds." Isabella traced the lines, her pencil hovering over the library's footprint. The hidden compartment wasn't marked, deliberate omission or oversight. She decided to document it discreetly, sketching the alcove with notes on reinforcement. But as she worked, her thoughts drifted to the photographs, the women's faces haunting her like unfinished sketches. By midday, hunger drove her to Burlington, the nearest town with a semblance of civilization, a co-op market stocked with local cheeses and organic greens, plus a hardware store for supplies. The drive wound through valleys splashed with turning maples, radio tuned to NPR discussing queer icons in American history, Audre Lorde, James Baldwin, voices that made her chest ache with their unflinching truth. Back in Chicago, she'd attended pride events in fits and starts, always on the periphery, too afraid of the vulnerability to dive in. Mia had dragged her once to a dyke march where banners waved like freedoms she envied. But Isabella had clung to the edges, whispering excuses about work. The market was bustling with weekenders, flannel-clad hipsters loading carts with cider and pumpkins. Isabella selected apples crisp as autumn promises, a loaf of sourdough, and Impulse, a bottle of red from a Vermont vineyard. Label promising notes of wild berry and resilience. Checkout. Cashier. A young woman with tattoos snaking up her arms like vines, eyed her ringless hand. New in town? Hawthorne's got that pull. Draws folks chasing shadows. Isabella smiled faintly. Something like that. Driving back. The wine bottle rolled gently at her feet. A reminder that solitude could be savored, not just endured. Lena was gone when she returned. The gardens tamed a fraction more. A wheelbarrow of clippings piled neat by the shed. Isabella unpacked in the kitchen, slicing apples with a paring knife that felt too small for the task. Her mind replaying Lena's words. Secrets have a way of unraveling. That evening, as twilight bled purple across the hills, she returned to the letters, starting from the beginning. The first one, dated 1890, was tentative. Bella, age 22, fresh from a finishing school in Boston, writing to Eliza, a painter's apprentice met at a salon in Manhattan. Your eyes hold storms I wish to weather, Bella confessed, the words blooming with first love fervor. Eliza's replies were bolder, laced with sketches, delicate line drawings of hands entwined, lips brushing in forbidden proximity. They met in secret during Bella's visits to the city, stealing nights in rented rooms above jazz dens, where the thrum of saxophones masked their whispers. But the tone shifted by 1895. After Bella's inheritance, the manor became their haven and prison. Eliza relocating under the guise of companion, her true role veiled in propriety. Letters spoke of stolen kisses in the attic, of dances by candlelight when servants slept. Yet cracks appeared. Societal pressures. A suitor named Theodore Vance pushed by the family for alliance. His wealth the mortar to seal the Hawthorne cracks. Isabella read until her eyes burned. The fire long guttered to embers. The parallels gnawed at her. Mia's departure echoing Theodore's intrusion. Her own fears mirroring Bella's. In the quiet, she penned a note in her journal. What if the lies we tell ourselves are the strongest walls? Sleep came fitful. Dreams woven with sepia faces and hazel eyes that watched her without judgment. Morning brought Lena again. This time with a chainsaw humming like a promise of transformation. They worked side by side clearing the veranda. Sawdust flying in golden arcs. Conversation flowing easy as the river beyond the trees. Lena shared stories of her ex, a musician who'd chased fame to Nashville, leaving her with a dog named Rue and a heart patched with time. Love's like these vines, she said, severing a thick tendril. Gorgeous. But they choke if you let him. Isabella nodded, sweat beading on her brow. The labor a balm. For the first time, the manor felt less like a burden and more like a bridge, between past and present, between the woman she was and the one she might become. The days blurred into a rhythm of restoration and revelation. Hawthorne Manor's bones creaking under Isabella's careful hands like an old friend rousing from slumber. She hired a local carpenter, a stoic Vermonter named Jed with hands like oak roots, to shore up the library's beams while she focused on the plasterwork, mixing lime putty in a trough that echoed with the slosh of memory. Lena appeared daily, her truck a reliable specter in the drive, tending the grounds with a reverence that bordered on ritual. They shared lunches on the porch, sandwiches of sharp cheddar and apple slices, washed down with cider that fizzed like laughter, conversations skirting the edges of personal histories, dipping into safe waters like favorite books or the best hiking trails in the Adirondacks. But the letters pulled Isabella deeper, each one a dive into the abyss of Bella and Eliza's world. By the third week, she'd pieced together the timeline. Their love had flowered in the hothouse of Gilded Age excess. Manhattan's glittering facades hiding smoky speakeasies where women in silk gloves passed notes under tables. Bella, heiress to a shipping fortune tainted by whispers of opium trades, lies her father had buried under philanthropy, had been groomed for marriage. But Eliza's arrival at a Hawthorne gala, sketchbook in hand as the hired illustrator, had upended it all. "You draw souls, not portraits," Bella wrote in their first exchange, enclosing a lock of her hair. Eliza's response, a nude study of Bella, bold lines capturing curves that propriety demanded be concealed. Isabella pored over these in stolen moments, hidden in the attic where dust-filtered light slanted through gabled windows. The space was a trove, trunks of gowns moth-eaten to lace skeletons, hatboxes spilling feathers like fallen dreams. One afternoon, prying open a cedar chest, she unearthed Eliza's sketchbook, pages filled with Bella in repose, her form rendered with a lover's precision, from the curve of her hip to the vulnerability in her parted lips. Tucked between folios was a newspaper clipping, brittle as bone. Tragic blaze claims Hawthorne wing, heiress missing. Presumed lost. Dated October 15, 1901. The official story: accidental fire from a faulty lantern. But Eliza's marginal note, scrawled in fury: murder by match. They knew. Who were they? The family? Society's invisible hand? Isabella's skin prickled. The attic air thick with the ghosts of smoke long dissipated. She descended to the east wing. Now a skeletal outline of charred timbers roped off for safety, and paced its perimeter, notebook in hand. The blueprints showed no anomalies, but intuition, honed from years of reading buildings like books, urged her to dig. With Jed's help, they cleared debris, revealing foundation stones etched with dates predating the manor, 1875. The year Bella's grandfather had acquired the land from displaced Abenaki families, another lie layered into the estate's footings. That evening, as Jed packed up, Lena lingered, wiping mower blades by the shed. "You look like you've seen a specter," she observed, her tone light but eyes probing. Isabella hesitated, the sketchbook heavy in her satchel. Trust came slow to her, a muscle atrophied by betrayals, Mia's casual exit, her father's silence after the divorce, even Eleanor's cryptic will. But Lena's presence was a steady flame, warming without scorching. "Come inside," Isabella said finally. "There's something I need to show you." In the library, fire crackling against the chill, she spread the letters and sketches on the table, watching Lena's face as she absorbed them. No shock, just a slow nod, fingers tracing Eliza's lines with the respect of an artist. "My Gran Eleanor's mother used to tell half-stories," Lena murmured, "about the two roses who tended the manor. Said one wilted too soon. The other carried on in shadow. Thought it was just old wives' tales to scare kids from the East Wing." She met Isabella's gaze, unflinching. "But this, it's real. Raw. Makes you wonder what we do for love like that." Isabella's throat tightened, the vulnerability of the admission hanging between them like incense. "It makes me angry. All the hiding, the erasure. Bella had a child, Eliza's, or so the letters hint, sent away to keep the name clean. What kind of legacy is that?" Lena reached across, her hand covering Isabella's briefly. Calluses rough against soft skin, a touch electric, grounding. "The kind we break. You're here now. Uncovering it. That's legacy too. The contact lingered a beat too long, sending warmth spiraling through Isabella's veins, awakening nerves dormant since Mia's last kiss. She pulled back gently, heart hammering, and changed the subject to safer ground, the garden's original layout, from Eliza's sketches. They worked late into the night, Lena sketching proposed plantings while Isabella annotated restoration plans. Laughter slipped in unexpectedly, Lena's dry wit on Jed's penchant for flannel, man's got more checks than a banker, drawing a genuine smile from Isabella. The first in weeks. As midnight tolled from a grandfather clock wheezing in protest, Lena stood to leave, pausing at the door. Thanks for sharing this. Isabella feels less alone, knowing I'm not the only one with roots twisted by secrets. The door clicked shut, and Isabella leaned against it, pulse echoing in the quiet. Alone again. But the emptiness felt different, echoing with possibility, not just ache. The next days intensified. Contractors arrived for electrical rewiring, their drills a cacophony drowning out NPR's morning shows on queer rights marches in San Francisco. Isabella threw herself into the work. But the past intruded, dreams of flames licking at lace hems, of hands reaching through smoke. She drove to the county archives in Montpelier, a squat brick building smelling of mildew and microfiche, unearthing deeds that confirmed the land's shady provenance. Seated under duress, the Abenaki displaced to make way for Hawthorne ambition. Back at the manor, a package waited on the porch, Eleanor's solicitor, forwarding effects from the city apartment. Inside, a leather journal, Eleanor's script filling its pages with reflections on the women who whispered where men shouted. Entries from the 1970s chronicled Eleanor's own awakening, an affair with a librarian in Burlington, ended by family pressure. The pain inked in sparse lines. I buried her with the roses, but she blooms in my veins still. A pressed flower marked the final page. Wild rose, thorns intact. Isabella wept then. Alone in the solarium where sunlight pooled like liquid gold, the journal open on her lap. Her own story mirrored these, love sought and sabotaged, identity armored against judgment. That night, over dinner of pasta scavenged from market odds, she invited Lena to join, the invitation slipping out like a confession. They ate by candlelight, the table set with mismatched china from the manor's depths. Conversation flowed from architecture to art, Lena revealing her own sketches, hidden in truck glove box, landscapes infused with human longing. Never showed him much, she admitted, vulnerability cracking her voice. X said they were too intimate, like seeing inside my skin. Isabella leaned forward, candle flame dancing in her eyes. They're beautiful. Honest. Like Eliza's. The air thickened, charged with unspoken invitation. When Lena's knee brushed hers under the table, neither pulled away. Instead, Isabella felt the stir of desire, soft as fog lifting, revealing contours long obscured. Plates cleared. Thunder rumbled distant, promising storm. Lena helped with dishes, suds foaming like secrets bubbling up. Their hands met over a glass, water dripping warm between fingers, and Isabella turned, heart in her throat. Stay, she whispered. The word a bridge extended over chasms. Lena's eyes searched hers, hazel depths reflecting firelight and fear. Isabella. I don't want to be another ghost in this place. But she stayed. Their goodbye kiss at the door lingering into hello. Lips tentative then urgent. Tasting of salt and cider and the sweet ache of beginning. The kiss lingered on Isabella's lips like the aftertaste of forbidden fruit. Sweet and sharp. As she watched Lena's taillights fade into the moon-silvered drive. Hawthorne Manor settled around her with a sigh. Floorboards creaking in approval or warning, she couldn't tell which. There. In the master suite she'd claimed for her own. The four-poster bed loomed like a confessional. Sheets crisp from a recent airing. She undressed slowly. The mirror reflecting a body marked by time. Faint stretch marks from a youth spent climbing scaffolds. A scar on her rib from a rogue nail in Providence. Beautiful, Mia had once said. But Isabella had always seen flaws. Building herself as rigorously as any structure. Sleep evaded her. The journal and letters companions in the dark. Eleanor's words haunted. Love is the truest restoration. Peel back the lies. And what remains is gold. Isabella traced the pressed rose. Its petals fragile as hope. And wondered if she dared believe it. Lena's touch replayed in her mind, gentle. Assured. A contrast to Mia's whirlwind passion that had burned hot and left ashes. Morning arrived with frost rhyming the windows. Vermont's shoulder season nipping at summer's heels. Isabella bundled into flannel and denim. Descending to the kitchen where coffee brewed strong enough to wake the dead. Lena arrived early. Thermos in hand. Her cheeks flushed from the cold. Eyes avoiding direct contact at first. Slept like a log, she said. Voice casual. But the slight hitch betrayed her. They worked in tandem that day. Isabella directing painters on the foyer frescoes, faded murals of pastoral scenes, nymphs and satyrs entwined in eternal spring, while Lena unearthed the herb garden, unearthing pots of lavender and mint that perfumed the air like memory. Conversation danced around the kiss. Light touches and passing brushes of shoulders. Until lunch. When Isabella set out soup simmered from market carrots. Steam curling inviting. I meant it, she said abruptly. Spoon paused midway. About staying. If you want. Lena's gaze lifted. Steady now. I do. But this place pulls things out of you. Secrets. Fears. She set her bowl down. Fingers lacing with Isabella's across the table. My ex. Claire, she was fire. We met in New Orleans. Mardi Gras chaos. Thought it was fate. But she wanted the spotlight. I wanted quiet. When she left for that band in Austin, I followed for a year. Then broke. Came north to heal. Found Eleanor hiring for the grounds. She saw the cracks in me. Said tend what's broken. And it tends you back. Isabella squeezed her hand. The story echoing her own fractures. Mia's the same, chased her art career to LA last spring. Said my stability bored her. But it wasn't boredom. It was fear. Of building something real. The admission hung. Raw and exposed. But Lena's nod was understanding. No pity. Then let's build slow, Lena murmured. Thumb stroking Isabella's knuckles. Like this house. Foundation first. The afternoon brought Jed and his crew. Hammering newel posts into the grand staircase. The scent of fresh pine mingling with plaster dust. Isabella sketched elevations for the east wing rebuild. Incorporating salvaged beams from the fire. A nod to resilience. But as dusk fell, a call from Chicago shattered the idyll. Her firm's partner. Voice clipped over static. The museum bids tanking without your revisions. Izzy. Clients want flash. Not your heritage fetish. Get back soon. Or we're cutting losses. The line went dead, leaving Isabella staring at the receiver, the manor's walls closing in. She wandered the grounds, boots crunching frost-kissed grass, until Lena found her by the fountain, now clear, water trickling tentative from the spout. Bad news? Lena asked, settling beside her on the stone rim. Isabella recounted the call, words tumbling like loosened stones. It's always the same, my work's too emotional, too tied to stories. But that's what makes it live. Lena draped an arm around her shoulders, warmth seeping through wool. Stories are what hold us. Like these. She gestured to the manor, then pulled a small sketch from her pocket, a quick study of Isabella earlier. Laughing over soup. Lines capturing joy's fleeting curve. Yours. If you want it. Isabella took it, fingers trembling. The gift a talisman. They kissed there, under the emerging stars. Slower this time, exploring with the patience of mapmakers charting new territory. Lena's hands were gentle on her waist, pulling her close, bodies aligning like keystones in an arch. Desire built like a gathering storm, but they parted breathless, foreheads touching. Not here, Lena whispered. Not yet. Let's let it breathe. That night, Isabella delved deeper into the letters, the intimacy with Lena fueling her quest. A bundle from 1898 revealed the heart of the lie, Bella's pregnancy, confirmed in frantic script. Eliza, my love, our miracle grows, but father demands I wed Theodore to cloak it in legitimacy. He suspects, his eyes miss nothing. The child will be his heir, but in truth, ours forever. Eliza's reply was a vow. I will paint our family in shadows if I must. Meet me at the boathouse. Midnight we flee to Canada. Start anew, but they didn't flee. Subsequent letters chronicled the marriage. A hollow ceremony in the manor's chapel. Theodore's brutality veiled in social charm. The child, a girl named Rose, was born in secrecy, handed to a wet nurse while Eliza posed as governess, her sketches of the infant hidden in linens. Isabella's heart ached with the injustice, the love twisted into servitude, the family built on denial. A photograph slipped free, Bella and Eliza with infant Rose, the child's green eyes a mirror to Isabella's own. Was this her great-grandmother? The lineage clicked. Eleanor had mentioned Rose vaguely. The spinster aunt from Boston. Erased again. To preserve the Hawthorne facade of straight lines and straight marriages. Tears blurred the image, and Isabella clutched it to her chest. The weight of inherited silence crushing. How many women had suffered in this cycle? Loving in the margins? She thought of Lena, of the slow build they nurtured, and vowed silently, no more hiding. The week brought visitors, a cousin from Chicago, Marcus, Eleanor's nephew, arriving unannounced in a sleek SUV that screamed city polish against the gravel. Tall, with the Hawthorne jawline softened by urban indulgence, he hugged Isabella stiffly, eyes scanning the progress with appraiser's gleam. Aunt Ellie always had a soft spot for lost causes. You sure you want to pour your savings into this mausoleum? Over tea in the solarium, now half repainted in Eleanor's favorite sage. He revealed his errand, family trust jittery. Rumors of liens from the old fire insurance fraud whispers. If you're digging up dirt, better share. Isabella's grip tightened on her cup, the letter's secrets flashing like warnings. Just structural history. Nothing to worry the trust. Marcus's smile didn't reach his eyes. Keep it that way. Izzy. Hawthorns protect their own. He left with a vague promise of funding. But Isabella felt the chill of his scrutiny. The estate's lies coiling tighter. That evening, Lena sensed the tension, drawing Isabella to the gardens for a walk. Lanterns strung from apple boughs cast golden pools, fireflies winking like conspirators. They sat on a bench carved with initials, B and E, faint but enduring. He wants to control the narrative, Isabella confessed, leaning into Lena's side. Then write your own, Lena replied, kissing her temple. Their embrace deepened. Hands wandering paths of discovery, Lena's fingers tracing Isabella's collarbone, eliciting shivers, Isabella's palm pressing Lena's back, feeling the steady thrum of life beneath. They made love there, on a blanket spread under stars, bodies moving in harmony born of trust. The manor's shadows retreating as pleasure crested like waves on Lake Champlain. After, tangled in limbs and whispers, Isabella shared the pregnancy letters, the photo of Rose. Lena held it reverently. She's you. In every line, the connection sealed something in Isabella, love not as destruction, but as revelation. Winter whispered its approach in the bite of November winds, stripping the maples bare and blanketing Hawthorn Manor in a hush broken only by the saw of axes on storm-felled limbs. Isabella's days divided between hammer and heart, mornings wrestling wiring with electricians, their fluorescent buzz clashing with the manor's analog soul, afternoons lost in archives, piecing the puzzle of Rose Hawthorn Vance, the child born of concealed passion. Lena became her anchor, their nights a sanctuary of shared breaths and stories, the master bed now a haven where sheets tangled like lovers' limbs. But the idyll fractured on a Tuesday, frost glittering like shattered glass on the panes. Isabella's phone rang at dawn. Mia, voice a ghost over the line from L.A. Izzy, I saw your firm's site. That Vermont project looks intense. Miss your sketches. Can we talk? The words landed like frostbite, numbing then burning. Isabella paced the cold kitchen, Lena still asleep upstairs, her mind reeling. Mia, with her cascade of blonde curls and laugh like summer thunder, had been her great unraveling, 2 years of fevered nights in Chicago lofts, arguments that echoed like thunderclaps, ending in silence. Why now? Isabella asked, voice steady despite the tremor. Regret's a bitch, Mia admitted. My show's bombing. Realized I chased lights. Lost the spark. You were always the steady one. Laughter. Brittle. Come back. We can fix it. Isabella hung up without promise, the receiver heavy as lead. Fix it, as if love were a blueprint revised overnight. She climbed back to bed, curling against Lena's warmth, but sleep fled, chased by specters of what-ifs. Lena sensed it over breakfast, pancakes sizzling on the new induction stove, maple syrup from local taps. Old flame, she asked gently, flipping a golden disc. Isabella nodded, words spilling, the whirlwind romance, the slow suffocation, Mia's departure like a door slammed on possibility. She makes me feel alive, but in the wrecking ball way. You make me feel seen. Lena plated the food, her touch on Isabella's shoulder a reassurance. Flames flicker. Doesn't make him home, but doubt seeded, a tiny fracture in their foundation. Work pressed on. The east wing's rebuild advanced. Masons laying bricks salvaged from the ruins, each one a testament to endurance. Isabella incorporated a memorial alcove, subtle, a niche for Eliza's sketchbook, to be glassed and lit for quiet reflection. Jed approved with a grunt. Women like that deserved better than ash. In Montpelier, deeper dives yielded gold. Rose's adoption records, sealed but cracked open by a sympathetic archivist with a rainbow pin on her lapel. Born 1899. Father listed as Theodore. But a midwife's affidavit, buried in ledgers, noted union unconventional. Rose had been shuttled to Boston aunts, raised as a Vance. But letters from Eliza, smuggled via servants, chronicled her visits. Our girl has your eyes, Bella. Green as the secret gardens we dreamed. The betrayal crystallized. Theodore, complicit or coerced, had claimed paternity. His own scandals, debts from gambling dens, erased by the Hawthorne alliance. Bella's fire? No accident. An investigation footnote. Lantern overturned in haste during altercation. Isabella's blood ran cold. Had Theodore discovered the affair? Torched the evidence with Eliza inside? The letter stopped in 1901. Eliza's fate a void. Confronting this, Isabella drove to the boathouse by the lake, a weathered structure on Manor's edge, now leaning like a weary sentinel. Inside, moldering oars and a rusted rowboat. But beneath floor slats, a tin box, pried open to reveal Eliza's final sketches. Bella in flames, reaching, Rose as a toddler, innocent amid chaos. A note. Forgive me, my loves. The world took you, I take myself to it. Suicide? Or escape? Isabella sat amid the decay, tears carving paths down her cheeks, the weight of silenced voices crushing. How many endings had been forced by fear? Returning, she found Lena in the library, poring over the letters with furrowed brow. It's murder, isn't it? Covered up to save face. Isabella collapsed beside her, head on shoulder. And Rose paid for it, raised without truth, passing the silence to Eleanor. To me, they held each other. The fire's glow a fragile bulwark against grief. Marcus returned uninvited that weekend, SUV crunching gravel like teeth on bone. Progress reports. He demanded over brandy in the study, eyes sharp on the alcove plans. What's this memorial? Trust won't fund frivolities. It's history, Isabella countered. Voice steel. The kind that honors, not hides. His laugh was oily. History's what we say it is. Aunt Ellie's will was vague. Restore could mean raise and rebuild condos. Profitable. Rage flared. Hot as the old blaze. This is Hawthorne blood. Lies built it. Truth will save it. Marcus leaned in. Cologne cloying. Careful, cousin. Dig too deep. You unearth things that bite. Like that Vance skeleton in the closet. He left with a smirk. But Isabella's resolve hardened. Lena, witnessing from the hall, pulled her into the kitchen for tea. He's threatened you. Worse, he's family. Isabella's hands shook. But Lena steadied them. Kiss fierce with defiance. That night, they made love with urgency. Bodies a rebellion against shadows. Lena's mouth tracing maps of solace on Isabella's skin. Whispers of mine and stay weaving through gasps. Dawn found them entwined. But Mia's text buzzed insistent. Thinking of you in that big bed. Remember Paris. Guilt twisted. A thorn in bliss. Isabella deleted them. But the seed sprouted doubt. Was she building on solid ground? Or echoes of past mistakes? The climax brewed mid-month. A gala fundraiser Isabella organized for restoration funds, inviting locals to the half-reborn manor, fairy light-strung. Caterers from Burlington serving Vermont chèvre and charcuterie. Lena helped decorate, her sketches inspiring tableaus of wild roses in vases. Guests milled. Jed in ill-fitting suit. The archivist with her wife. Even Harlan the realtor. Mustache twitching over wine. Marcus arrived fashionably late, arm linked with a sharp-suited lawyer from the trust. Toasts rang. Isabella speaking of honoring the women who shaped this place, her voice carrying the letter's fire. But as applause faded, Marcus cornered her in the library, glass in hand. Charming speech. But those women? Eliza was a scandal, affair with Bella. The child illegitimate. Trust knows. Raise it. Or we contest the will. Betrayal landed like a blow. Kin turning blade. You knew? All this time. Family duty, he sneered. Preserve the name. Isabella's vision tunneled. Fury a roar. The name's poison. Built on graves. Lena appeared. Hand on Isabella's arm. Time to go. Marcus. Her tone brooked no argument. Hazel eyes steel. He left sputtering. The party resuming oblivious. But the secret spilled. Whispers circled. Guests eyeing Isabella with new curiosity. She fled to the gardens. Breath ragged. Lena following. It's out, Isabella gasped. Everything. Lena pulled her close. Kiss salt-tinged with tears. Then let it be free. Like us. In that embrace. Amid thorns and twilight. Isabella chose truth over legacy. Love over lies. But the storm Marcus unleashed loomed, threatening to consume all. The morning after the gala dawned brittle. Sunlight fracturing through ice panes like accusations hurled in glass. Hawthorne Manor, still scented with spilled wine and wilted roses, felt exposed, its half-healed wounds bared to the town's prying eyes. Isabella woke to the trill of her phone, voicemails from unknown numbers, locals murmuring support or suspicion. The archivist's voice warm, saw the news filtering through. Proud of you. Truth's the best foundation. But Marcus's lawyer had emailed overnight. Formal notice of will contest. Citing moral turpitude in estate history as grounds to seize and sell. Isabella dressed in armor, tailored blazer over thermal, boots polished against the mud, and met Lena in the kitchen, where coffee steamed like resolve. They're coming for it, she said, sliding the printout across the table. The whole damn thing. Lena scanned it, jaw tightening. Bastards. Using ghosts to rob graves. She poured a mug, handing it over with a kiss to Isabella's temple, domestic, defiant. Fight it. You've got the letters, the records. Proof it's Hawthorne heart. Not scandal, but doubt gnawed. The proof was queer love. A narrative the Trust's old money board might twist into ammunition. Isabella spent the day in Burlington, consulting a lawyer named Riley, a no-nonsense dyke in her 50s with a practice above a queer bookstore. Rainbow flag fluttering in the window. Riley reviewed the documents over herbal tea that smelled of chamomile and justice. Solid case for emotional distress in the will. Eleanor's intent clear. But they'll drag the dirt. Infidelity. Illegitimacy. Fire suspicions. You ready for that spotlight? Isabella nodded, though her stomach churned. For them, Bella, Eliza, Rose, and me. Riley's smile was fierce. Good. We'll countersue for defamation if they slander. File by week's end. Driving back. Snow flurries dancing like confetti from a bitter parade. Isabella felt the manners pull stronger, a living entity demanding reckoning. Lena waited with stew simmering. Rue the dog at her feet, tail thumping welcome. Over dinner, Isabella shared the plan. Lena's hand steady on hers. Proud of you, she murmured. Breaking chains. Their lovemaking that night was tender. A reaffirmation, Lena's fingers weaving through Isabella's hair. Bodies rocking in rhythm with the wind's howl outside. Whatever comes, Lena whispered against her neck. We face it rooted. The contest erupted publicly midweek. A Burlington Free Press article, leaked by Marcus's camp, headlined Hawthorne Heiress unearths scandalous past, lesbian affair. Suspicious fire rock Vermont estate. Photos from the gala splashed across. Isabella mid-toast. Lena blurred in background. Comments online festered. Slurs from trolls. Support from allies. A queer history podcaster tweeting solidarity. Isabella's phone exploded. Her Chicago partner offering sabbatical. Mia texting heard the drama. Call me support. Deleted unread. But the hurt cut deep. Family. Weaponized against her blood. She retreated to the attic. Sifting trunks for more evidence. Unearthing Rose's diary, leather volume. Entries from 1920s Boston. Mama B whispers of Eliza's art in the city. Says it's my inheritance. But Papa T forbids. Calls it deviant. I sneak sketches. Hide them with the locket. Sketches enclosed. Self-portraits with lovers' shadows. Rose's own awakening in speakeasies where jazz queens danced unapologetic. The pieces locked. Rose, carrying the torch, had fled to Boston not in shame but pursuit, art school under false name. Affairs with chorus girls. Her spinster label a shield. Eleanor, Rose's daughter, inherited the silence, but cracked it in her journal's confessions. Isabella compiled a dossier, mailing copies to Riley, then drove to the lake. Boathouse a frozen sentinel. Snow crunched underfoot as she carved Bella and Eliza's initials deeper into the bench. A vow etched in wood. Lena joined her there. Bundled in parka. Thermos of mulled wine shared against the cold. Read the article. Hurts. But it's out. No more hiding. Isabella leaned into her. Wine warming from within. Feels like fire all over again. But this time, I won't run. Their kiss tasted of spice and snow. Hands seeking warmth beneath layers. But the chill drove them inside. That evening, as storm blanketed the hills, they hosted a small vigil. Riley, the archivist and wife. Jed with his quiet strength, fireplace aglow. Letters read aloud like liturgy. Toasts to Bella and Eliza. To Rose's hidden canvases unearthed from storage. Bold oils of women entwined. Now destined for the alcove. Marcus struck next. A late-night call. Voice slurred with scotch. Pull the plug. Izzy. Trusts voting tomorrow sell to developers. Your Dyke fairy tale ends. Rage boiled over. It's our history. Marcus. Queer. Messy. True. You can't erase it. Laughter. Hollow. Watch me. Click. Isabella hurled the phone. Shattering a vase, Eleanor's. Shards scattering like stars. Lena swept them up, pulling her into embrace. Tomorrow, we fight. Court filings flew. Isabella's countersuit alleging suppression of heritage. Emotional coercion. Media frenzy followed, interviews with NPR. A documentary crew from Portland sniffing Oscar bait. Isabella spoke halting at first, then fierce. This estate's built on love the world called lie. We're restoring it. All of it. Lena stood beside her in every frame. Hand in hers. A public claiming that thrilled and terrified. Whispers in town turned. Locals dropping off pies. Elders sharing kin tales of hidden kinships. But betrayal's blade twisted personal. Mia arrived unannounced. Weekend bag slung. Curls windswept from the airport shuttle. Saw the news. Needed to see you. She stood on the porch. Snow-dusted. Eyes pleading. Isabella's heart clenched, old habits dying hard. Mia's not the time. Just talk. For old times. Mia stepped closer. Scent of jasmine evoking ghosts. Lena emerged from the shed. Shears in hand. Gaze assessing. Everything all right? Mia's smile faltered. Old friend. Won't intrude. But intrusion it was. Isabella invited her in for coffee. Lena retreating to the gardens with a nod that said trust but watch. Over mugs. Mia spun her tale LA failures. Epiphany in therapy. You were right, I ran from us. From me. But seeing you now. Fighting. It's hot. We could team up. My network's for your story. Possessiveness flared. Familiar poison. It's not a story. Mia. It's life. Mine with Lena. Mia's eyes hardened. That groundskeeper? She's rebound. I know you. Izzy, you crave the chaos. Word stung. Cracking facade. Out. Now. Mia left in a huff. But seeds of insecurity bloomed. Was Lena truly rooted? Or would the storm uproot her too? That night, Isabella confessed to Lena by firelight. Vulnerability raw. Mia's chaos. Part of me misses it. But you're home. Lena's kiss was fierce. Bodies melding in affirmation. Pleasure a tide washing doubt. Chaos passes. This stays. Yet dawn brought escalation. Trust's injunction to halt work. Developers eyeing the land for luxury retreats. Isabella rallied. Petition signed by town queers. Historians. Even Abenaki elders reclaiming narrative threads. In the alcove. As masons installed glass. Isabella hung roses painting. Two women dancing. Shadows eternal. Lena's arm around her. They stood witness. Love's quiet revolution. December cloaked Vermont in white silence. Hawthorne Manor spires capped like crowns of contrition. The ongoing battle a drumbeat under holiday cheer. Isabella's countersuit gained traction. Riley's filings bolstered by expert affidavits from historians affirming the fire's arson links. Theodore's diaries unearthed from a Boston vault detailing his rage. The painter whore corrupts my wife, end it. Or I will. Public sympathy swung. Editorials in the Free Press decried erasure of queer pioneers. Crowdfunding surged for restoration. Locals stringing lights on the veranda in solidarity. But the personal toll mounted. Mia's shadow lingered in texts. Think about it. And sleepless nights where Isabella questioned her choices. Was this fight worth the fracture? Lena. Ever steady. Countered with actions. Nights of stargazing from the boathouse. Blankets wrapped tight. Her stories of Louisiana bayous a lullaby against worry. My mama was like you, Lena shared one eve. breath fogging the frigid air. Loved a woman in the shadows. During Jim Crow, when even breathing wrong was danger. She taught me roots run deep, even in poor soil. Isabella kissed her then. Snowflakes melting on lashes. Gratitude swelling. Their intimacy deepened. Mornings waking to Lena's fingers tracing spine. Afternoons stolen in the solarium. Bodies arching under winter sun like plants seeking light. Love, once a specter, solidified into something tangible. A beam load-bearing against collapse. Christmas approached. The manor half transformed. Library shelves restocked with Eleanor's romances and Rose's canvases. East wing roofed anew with slate gleaming like healed scars. Isabella hosted a small gathering, Riley and partner. Jed with his daughter, a teen with buzzcut and guitar dreams. The Archivist Quartet. Table groaned under Lena's gumbo. Shipped spices evoking bayou warmth. Toasts clinking to women who endured. Gifts exchanged. Isabella gave Lena a locket replica. Engraved B and E but holding their photo, smiling in the gardens. Hands linked. Lena's gift. A sketchbook bound in manor leather. Pages blank for their joint stories. Our legacy, she whispered. Kiss sealing promise. But Marcus struck on Christmas Eve. Uninvited. Bearing truce in a bottle of scotch. Eyes red-rimmed. Family's family, he slurred. Collapsing into the study chair. Lost the board vote, your media circus scared him. But it's killing me. Izzy. Dad, our uncle knew about Rose. Beat it out of him before he died. Said we bury it. Or it buries us. Vulnerability cracked his bluster. And Isabella softened. Pouring water, not whiskey. Burying kills slow. Look at Eleanor, died clutching secrets. Let it breathe. He wept then. Shoulders shaking. The hawthorn armor crumbling. Help me make it right. Dawn saw him depart sober. Promising testimony. I'll swear to the arson. For her. The New Year heralded hearings in Montpelier Courthouse. Oak-paneled like a confessional. Isabella testified first. Voice steady. Letters read aloud. Their passion a quiet thunder. This isn't scandal, it's survival. Love in a world that demanded lies. Lena sat front row. Hand squeezing hers pre-witness stand. Her presence a talisman. Marcus followed. Suit rumpled. Words halting. Theodore. My great-grandfather. He confessed in journals. Jealousy. Rage. Lit the match. Gasps rippled. The judge. A silver-haired woman with kind eyes. Adjourned for deliberation. Waiting crushed. Days of Snowden isolation. Isabella pacing halls. Lena carving paths through drifts for sanity walks. Doubt resurfaced. What if they rule against? Lose it all. Lena pulled her down in the library. Fire roaring. Then we build elsewhere. You, me, Rue. Roots travel. Their lovemaking was desperate. Acclaiming nails raking backs. Cries echoing off beams. Release a temporary dam against fear. Verdict came mid-January. Trusts contest dismissed. Isabella affirmed sole heir. With reparations ordered for historical preservation grants. Cheers erupted in the hall. Riley hugging fierce. But Isabella's joy tempered Mia's final text. Congrats. Knew you'd win. Still love you. Block. Forever. Spring thawed the land. Manor blooming under cruise. Gardens revived with Eliza's heirloom roses. Thorns tamed but potent. Isabella's firm recalled her as hero. The museum bid one on narrative integrity, but she negotiated remote, committing to Hawthorne as base. One April Eve, as dogwoods unfurled pink against green, Isabella led Lena to the east wing. Now complete, a sunroom of glass and light. Central a plaque. For Bella, Eliza, Rose, and all who loved in shadow, they stood, arms entwined, watching sunset gild the lake. "You saved it," Lena said, voice thick. "We did." Isabella turned, dropping to knee, not proposal, but promise. "Stay? Build this life with me." Lena's tears fell. Not fervent. "Always." But secret's final whisper came in summer. A letter from Boston. Rose's descendant, a cousin twice removed. Queer artist named Jordan. Enclosing canvases and a note. "Heard your story. This is ours too. Let's heal together." The family, fractured, began mending, truth the mortar. Summer draped Hawthorne Manor in verdant embrace. The estate reborn as beacon, tours booked for queer history seekers. Grants flowing for Abenaki cultural ties. The wild roses rampant as resilience. Isabella's days wove work and wonder. Blueprints for expansions emailed to Chicago. Afternoons with Lena in the herb garden. Hands soil stained. Laughter rising like steam from fresh earth. Their love matured. Roots delving deep, no grand gestures, but quiet rituals. Morning coffee on the porch. Evenings with Rue at their feet. Sketchpads open to collaborative dreams. Jordan arrived in July. A whirlwind of locks and leather. Canvases strapped to her Jeep like trophies. Cousin in blood and spirit. She toured the alcove with reverence. Hanging her own piece. Abstract swirls of green and crimson. Titled Echoes Unburied. Over dinners of Lena's jambalaya. Stories spilled. Jordan's coming out in Brooklyn. Parallels to Rose's speakeasy flings. "You cracked the vault," she told Isabella. "Now we fill it with light." Marcus visited sporadically. Amends and actions. Funding the memorial garden. Therapy confessions over tea. "Hate's a heavy load," he admitted once. Eyes on the lake. "Yours lifted mine. Redemption's path crooked. But walked." Isabella's self-discovery crested in quiet moments. Journaling by boathouse. Tracing her lineage, not shame, but strength. The women before her, Bella's defiance. Eliza's art. Rose's wanderlust. Eleanor's endurance. Mirrored her own arc from armored architect to open-hearted steward. Mia faded to footnote. A lesson in fleeting fires. One August twilight. As fireflies scripted the air. Isabella and Lena married in the garden's small circle. Riley officiating. Jed on guitar strumming folk tunes. Jordan painting live. Vows exchanged under the bench. "I choose you." "In shadows and sun," Isabella said. Ring sliding warm on Lena's finger. Lena's reply. "You are my restoration, whole as is." The kiss sealed it. Cheers mingling with cicada song. The manor sighing approval. Life unfolded. Jordan's gallery show in Burlington featuring Hawthorne works. Drawing crowds who left changed. Isabella's book deal followed. Memoir of Unearthed Love. Title borrowed from a letter. In Your Arms. My Salvation. Years layered gentle. A child adopted. A girl with hazel eyes and auburn curls. Named Eliza Rose. The manor thrived. A haven for retreats, writers, artists, lovers seeking solace. Isabella aged into her 40s with grace. Lines etching stories, not scars. Lena's silver threading fuller. Their hands clasped across dinner tables. enduring. Yet the past's echo lingered, a beautiful ache, on Fire's anniversary. They read letters by candlelight, toasting Bella and Eliza with wine from the vineyard label. Resilience. They wait for us, Isabella whispered once, head on Lena's lap. In the next bloom, Lena replied, fingers combing hair. Healing wasn't erasure, but integration lies dismantled, truths enshrined. Hawthorne stood not on deception, but devotion to love unapologetic. Legacies reclaimed, hearts mended in the quiet work of living true. In Vermont's rolling embrace, Isabella found not just a home, but a horizon endless, shared, profoundly hers.